Okay. Yeah. Lady Wolf Pack on a whole nother level. Savage as they come, gang of female rebel. We got the sharpest claws, we got the whitest teeth. We coming for your lunch, but we only bring the heat.
Hey y'all, I'm Cassidy, the favorite daughter, obviously.
And I'm Kim, her mom, her match, and the real reason she turned out halfway decent.
Welcome to Mom's Favorite, the podcast where we laugh, vent, and overshare like it's our full-time job.
Yeah. And we're coming straight to you from Austin, Texas, where the queso's hot, the opinions are hotter, and we don't sugarcoat a damn thing.
You know, just think of us as Thelma and Louise, but only they're related and they have a podcast instead of a death wish.
So go ahead and pour yourself something strong, maybe a margarita, get a little snack.
Because here on Mom's Favorite, we got a lot to unpack.
Forward by Sarah Griesemer, PhD, licensed psychologist. Being a psychologist myself did not protect me from the truly devastating experience of seeking mental health support for my daughter. Before she was diagnosed properly with Pandas, 2 psychologists suggested she had autism. One therapist thought she was depressed, and another diagnosed her with generalized anxiety disorder. I've never been so angry and disappointed in my profession. Yet I understood. In my 10 years of training to be a child psychologist, no one had taught me anything about autoimmune encephalopathies, such as PANS and Pandas, and how they impact children's mental health. This topic was not represented in my neuropsychology coursework. In fact, Pandas was only getting a name after I graduated. I became an expert only through helping my own daughter. Now I work with parents whose kids have PANS and Pandas because I want those parents to be given the things I didn't receive: compassion, knowledge, hope, safety, care, and support. For those of you new to it, Pandas and PANS is a type of autoimmune encephalopathy. In short, this describes a disorder where the body attacks itself, in this case, its own brain, in the process of fighting a virus, infection, bacteria, or allergen. For Pandas, pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorders associated with strep, I know, it's a mouthful for sure. The triggering infection is strep. Although children with Pandas can have autoimmune responses to other triggers as well. For PANS, pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome, the trigger might be a tick-borne illness, a viral infection, or mold or other toxin. While our understanding will continue to evolve, our current theory is that the self-attack results in the swelling of the basal ganglia part of the brain. That swelling leads to a wide range of symptoms, including but not limited to obsessive compulsive disorder, tics, generalized anxiety, separation anxiety, school anxiety, depression, attention problems, intense rages, extreme sensory sensitivities, sleep issues, food restrictions, urinary issues, writing and math regression, executive functioning skills, and in extreme cases, hallucinations and psychosis. Not all kids have all symptoms. There is no known cure for PANS and Pandas, though there are treatments that can help manage the effects and encourage the body to heal. Pandas and PANS isolates parents and ruins marriages in a way I have seen few other psychiatric conditions affect families. Children who could leave the house, have play dates, go to school, and follow directions are suddenly incapacitated, rageful, anxiety-ridden, unreasonable, paranoid, and homebound. Stressed couples who used to be on the same page with parenting find themselves arguing about how to handle every new and scary behavior. Therapists give conflicting advice. Don't feed into the child's anxiety, but also don't push them too hard because you'll trigger a rage. Your pediatrician might not believe that Pandas and Pans is real, increasing the isolation and confusion and delaying treatment for the child. Families find themselves lost, alone, and terrified. I'm speaking of families rather than focusing on the child with the Pandas and Pans. This disorder is a systemic issue. Parents, family, extended family, educators, child care, neighbors, and all affected by this disorder. The mom who struggles to send her child to school because doing so results in the child attacking the parent or harming himself needs support and flexibility from teachers and school officials. The dad who fears his neighbor will call Child Protective Services on him because his child is screaming, "Don't hurt me," needs to know that his family is safe in their neighborhood. The parent who is barely getting through each hour needs encouragement from extended family, not insinuation that this is somehow a permissive parenting issue. Caregivers who are repeatedly hit, attacked, bitten, and screamed at need healing from the very real trauma that their bodies are experiencing. The dilemma of how to get broader support and understanding is real. How do you explain to your child rages are not the same as your best friend's daughter's tantrums? How do you talk about what your family is experiencing without shame or embarrassing your child? How do you convince your child's teacher that your child isn't a manipulative brat? I've actually heard that myself quite a bit. But they are in incredible pain and distress. In the middle of chaos and mental exhaustion, parents are tasked with piecing together a medical and emotional support system that doesn't believe their problem is real. The challenge of being seen and getting support are the two most common themes I hear from parents. Number one, I don't want to feel shamed for my parenting by telling people how bad things really are. And number two, nobody understands how bad things really are. In order to solve number two, we have to start with number one. Our culture tells us repeatedly that there is a right way to parent. And if you act in this magical right way, that any one of 100 parenting books will claim that they are knowledge givers of, then you can magically control your child's behavior. This way of thinking makes sharing typical parenting struggles difficult and sharing Pandas Pan struggles downright impossible. On to number two. Nobody gets how bad things really are. Once parents have a better understanding that people seeing their child rage or run into the street or yell swear words does not make them a bad parent. It becomes easier to actually share how bad it is. Often the resistance to talking about how bad it is the desire for our friends to just understand, or what I call read our minds. We want them to automatically know that when we say, I'm not really struggling. That doesn't mean my kid slammed a door and gave me the silent treatment and I'm really mad. It actually means I feel so much desperation and rage when my kid knocks over a bookshelf and throws books at his sister that I think I'm going to either implode and hide in the bed forever or explode and might actually hit my kid. Unfortunately, mind reading, as much as we really want people to be able to do it, is not real. Your friends will not automatically understand that you are grieving the loss of who your child was, that you're wondering if you'll ever see them again, how they were. They will not automatically understand how scary it is waking up each morning with dread, never knowing what the day may hold. How exhausting it is staying up till all hours of the night while your child asks you why this is happening to them. They will not automatically understand how it feels to hear your child say they want to die. You will not automatically understand the deep and devastating loneliness. If you are interested in taking a step on that journey of authenticity and honesty with those you trust, this book is a beautiful way to start sharing more of your life. By choosing a story from these pages that represents some of your experience, you get to show people a little more of what you are going through without having to say all the words. You'll get to show them that you're not crazy, that this is real. You'll get to finally be seen. The stories in this book fill a desperate need for parents, extended family, physicians, therapists, and others who work with or love a child with Pandas or PANS. Though it's easy to find online groups and fellow parents who are deep in the throes of trauma, grief, confusion, and pain, it is very difficult to find stories of healing and hope. This book offers parents a lifeline that we need when we are in the darkest of places. If you are a practitioner, therapist, or physician, I urge you to set aside what you think you know about this disorder. I invite you to read with curiosity and openness to what you might understand in a new way. As providers, we so often think we know what's true. We think we understand the whole story, but we often don't. The greatest healing we can offer families is through listening and believing. If you are a Pandas and PANS parent reading this, I so wish I could hug you and make you tea. My hope is that these stories can help you feel seen and understood and give you comfort in a time when comfort is very elusive. Find a comfy spot, cuddle up with your favorite blanket, and read those stories. As you read, I hope you can hear these families' voices and you can hold on to my voice as well. You are not alone. You are not broken. This is not your fault, and there is hope. Hey, welcome back, potty people. That's what Cassidy used the last time. Potty people. Anyway, so we are in our cute new recording studio and are so excited. We have a very special guest today. Melissa Nolan is here to talk about her book. She is going to share some information with us, and we really just want to talk about something that is important to both of us. We have been walking a very difficult journey, the two of us, and we want to kind of share some of that information and share this beautiful book of stories. The book is called Somewhere in There. Families living with PANS and Pandas share their journeys from despair to hope. And I'm telling you, it was so uplifting and encouraging to read these stories, and the fact that they're just from all over the country, it was just so wonderful. But so I'm excited to talk to you about it. But so hi, Melissa.
Hello, I'm excited to be with you. I'm glad Delilah, your dog, is with us as well.
Yeah, we have our little support animal in here.
That's why I feel like I'm right at home.
Yeah. So if you hear some heavy breathing in the background, it would be Delilah, which y'all are all aware of Delilah. So, but yeah, we're going to talk about the Pandas and Pans and dive into all that stuff in a minute. But first of all, tell me a little bit about you.
A little bit about me is I do have a background in journalism, so I do think that helped when I was writing the book. I currently I'm in accounting, which is so different, but
maybe that's why we're kindred spirits, because we're both in accounting, right?
I did not know that about you.
Yes.
And accounting is fun too, but I think it helped. I've always loved reading, and I've always loved listening to people's stories. I've liked just interviewing people, and I think it's such an important thing to just listen to people, and all of the families in the book just had so much to say. So it is probably one of the only things I've really done in my life where it felt like it really wasn't work. I've just felt so compelled to do it.
Yeah. That's great. I remember when you were, because we originally met on, I think, one of the pages, the Pandas Pans Parents or Pandas Parents, like, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember when you were putting out the word that you were looking for people to share their stories. And I think I was in the middle of the part that was the despair. We haven't gotten out of that yet, so I wasn't really quite ready to share any kind of hope at that point, because I didn't have any hope. And boy, this book really provides that hope, because you think when you're in the trenches of it, you're never going to get out of it.
That's exactly
and
right.
So
that
good.
is really why I wrote it. I mean, there were two main reasons why I felt like I just had to do it. Actually, I would say like the secondary reason, not the primary, but the secondary reason was for other people outside of this world to understand what it's really, really like behind closed doors. Because if you were to just look up on the internet, what is Pandas? What is, PANS? You see these like list of symptoms like OCD. Well, that can mean so many different things.
Correct.
And it looks so different in every kid. So just seeing a list does not capture the hell, or does not capture what it's actually like in your home when you have a kid who, I mean, there's so many different types of OCD alone,
Right.
as you know.
Oh, yeah.
There's religious OCD. There's contamination OCD. Well, then what happens when you add depression? What happens when you add anxiety, separation anxiety, school refusal, ADHD? They're words on a page, but somebody's living with this, and they all look different in different kids. So I wanted to paint a picture for teachers or psychologists or other family members who don't understand what it's really like. But the main reason was obviously for families, because as you so well know, when you go on a Facebook page for the first time for Pans or Pandas, you're just in shock, because you are only seeing people in crisis. Mm-hmm. And it feels like, wait a second, is everyone suffering? Are any of these kids getting better? Is there any hope? Are we all doomed? This is horrible. You feel camaraderie. You feel like it's amazing to be in a space where people truly understand what you're going through, but it's also so depressing.
Yes.
And I just remember when somebody would post about their child doing something they had never done before, succeeding at something, when they shared that their child was able to thrive and that their child was healing, people would be so excited and so happy. And so I just thought, okay, we really need this. We really need stories of hope to know that kids do survive this. They do heal.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely critical. I think it goes back to the very beginning. If you'll think back to when you first thought something might be wrong, trying to figure out what's wrong, I think it starts with knowledge and understanding and how we were told. I mean, we're from kind of the same time frame of all of this. And back then, now Pandas and Pans, they're starting to talk about it. But back then when you went in, first of all, they would say they never heard of it. And if they did hear of it, it wasn't a real thing. It's not real. How can you treat and cure and make something better when it's not even being acknowledged?
It is truly insane to me. One of the things I mentioned in the book toward the end is that Stanford did this because Stanford has a Pans and Pandas clinic, which is awesome.
Yes.
And I remember them putting out a study of the caregiver burden on Pans and Pandas parents. And there's sort of this index, and when they looked at the burden for Pans and Pandas parents, it was higher than the burden of taking care of someone with Alzheimer's.
Oh.
Which doesn't surprise us, but that's a huge burden. But when I thought about that, I thought, you don't talk to someone who takes care of someone with Alzheimer's and hear from them that they had to go convince 5 to 10 doctors that their loved one has Alzheimer's. But that's what you have to do when you're a Pans and Pandas parent. And just how insane that is. And so the burden becomes so much higher.
Yeah. And I think because a lot of the symptoms are behavioral, people just want to say, well, it's parenting, or it's just the kid, or it's behavior problems. And I think that was one of our biggest problems, was trying to convince not only, school, whatever, but even some of our own family members and close friends. Hey, and I know they were all sitting back just thinking, that kid just needs a good spanking, or, they're just letting him get away, but they didn't understand. We were letting him because we were trying to keep him alive.
Yes.
So, I think it's really important. That's what I love about the book, is that people that maybe they have a family member or a good friend or whatever, that they can maybe identify with it a little bit, and maybe you can kind of feel a little bit more like, hey, maybe this really is sort of going on, and maybe I shouldn't.
I know. I think so too. And I think parents have told me that they've been able to give it to, like, let's say a grandparent or a teacher, and so that they can maybe one story doesn't resonate, but another story does. Because think about our society and how we are with parenting in general, parenting a totally typical kid. There's sort of a defensiveness that we all have as a parent of always trying to make sure your child is doing the right thing. And when you have any kind of issue, a minor issue, it's challenging as a parent. And then, like you said, you sort of multiply that by 1,000. Mm-hmm. You're already just incredibly stressed trying to figure out everything. You're already questioning yourself as a parent. You're already questioning everything. And so to have somebody else's judgment is incredible. And that's why these parents feel so isolated, right? Because you don't want to share something that sounds insane because it is insane. It's insane.
Exactly. That's so true. That's so true because honestly, my close friends did see it. But if you try to explain, for example, I did read in here, one of the families did mention about the going to school thing. And that's a huge Pandas thing is the school refusal. And I think for us, that was basically the anxiety of, I just cannot do this. I can't, my anxiety level is so high right now. I can't manage being around people and I can't manage being in this place. But, I can remember days where we would spend maybe 2 hours just trying to get him in the car to go to school.
Yes.
And so I don't think people are thinking like school refusal, we'll just make them go. Well, you literally cannot. And we've literally had principals and resource officers trying to coax, hey, come on, get out of the car. And it's something that's so far beyond their control as well. And then you have people like, hey, come get out. And it's just such a horrible place for them to be. And for everybody. And I can see, the school, they also have, I mean, what do you do with this? This is like this mystery illness that this kid's acting like really wacko. And what do we do about it?
And I think one of the hardest things about school anxiety, and that was our son's, one of his biggest symptoms was school anxiety. I think what is so hard to explain is that if you are just talking about anxiety, you're just typical anxiety. Psychologists will tell you they have to go. And once they go, things will be better. Things will be okay. And I had multiple people, multiple professionals, multiple friends, multiple family members, just people encouraging and trying to give the right advice of the more he doesn't go, the harder it's going to be.
Right.
What they didn't understand is it was like trying to push him out of an airplane every single morning, and there were times he couldn't even get out of his room, let alone out the door, let alone in the car, let alone out of the car. And the dread we would all have every single morning, knowing, I can't believe we have to do this again.
Yeah.
And he would sort of want to go. That's what's so hard to understand as well, is that parts of him would want to. He wanted to be typical. These kids, underneath all of the brain inflammation, are typical normal kids who want to hang out with their friends, who want to be well liked, who want to succeed at school, because that's who they are underneath a ton of brain inflammation.
Yeah.
And so they can't even explain it, and they have such shame around it and such they can't explain what's going on in their brains. We can't explain it for them, but we see it and we see how much they're suffering.
Right. So just real quick, kind of describe, because I don't think most people don't really understand what this looks like. Mm-hmm. So when you first knew this is because your son is typically developing.
Yeah.
It's not like he has autism.
No.
So he's having these behaviors. He was just going along, chugging along. Everything's fine. And then what?
Okay. So in the 3rd grade, school starts mid-August. So I remember first day of school, and I remember him running up the stairs to his 3rd grade class. So that's mid-August. He was fine. All was well. And then I would say fast forward maybe a month, and the first symptoms we saw were out of nowhere. I just remember us telling him to go take a bath. And his reaction was so insane. so over the top. It was just so abnormal, and it was just bizarre. He just could not take a bath. And he would tell us, I can't get in the bath. And it's like, wait, what? Like, you've taken a million baths in your life. And then I remember us finally getting him in the bath, and then him saying, school is the worst place in the world. I will never go to school again. And it was like, what? Wow. So of course you think something awful is going on at school.
Right.
But he was always the kid who would tell us when things were going on. He would always share things, complaints or stories. And I just remember thinking, it didn't seem like anything was happening at school. He couldn't say why school was horrible. But of course I kept it in the back of my mind that, okay, something might be going on at school. But then all of a sudden it was like, he never had typical OCD. And I think that was really confusing as we went on the next several months. It was always confusing to me because when later, and I'm fast forwarding, but later when I would start looking at Pandas, I kept going, but he doesn't have OCD. And then I realized that very early on, weird things would happen, such as he would suddenly at 11 p.m. decide he needed his room completely rearranged. He would talk about hating things in his room, and he'd always loved his room. He would suddenly demand that we move furniture. So the type of OCD he had, it was like he would get something in his mind that had to happen. And if it didn't happen, all hell would break loose.
Right. And
if you see that in another kid, or if you would describe that to somebody, oh, he wants to change his room. He wants to change, he wants new furniture and he's demanding it and he can't move on until he gets new furniture. You'd be like, well, that sounds kind of bratty. So the type of OCD he had was getting something in his head that he wanted or that he thought was going to happen. And if it didn't happen, he could not move on.
Right.
So yeah, we saw those symptoms. All of a sudden he couldn't brush his teeth and we couldn't understand what are you talking about? Like, you've been doing that since you were 5.
Right. So once you kind of thought, hey, something's going on, what did you do first? You went to your pediatrician, probably.
We went to our pediatrician, who I'd always loved, and I explained all the things that were going on. And she said, because I had actually, I feel like I'm one of the few people who come into this, I had heard of Pandas. And I remember also around this time, he had strep. And I remember reading about Pandas and being like, oh my God, I hope he doesn't get that. That sounds terrible. And so when all of this was happening, I thought, wait a second, like, could this possibly be it? So I talked to her and she said, I believe in a very small subset of kids that Pandas exists. I don't think that's going on. That's what's going on with him. I think he has anxiety. But why don't I send you to a neurologist? So we went to a neurologist. At this point, I mean, it was so difficult just to get to any appointment with him. I mean,
yes,
very early on, it was hard. Symptoms were stacking up.
Yeah.
And so I just remember taking him to a neurologist, and the neurologist said basically the exact same thing that the pediatrician said. I believe this exists in a very small subset of kids. I don't think that's what's going on with your son. I think it's anxiety. We have kind of 2 options. You can start with magnesium, like a vitamin, or we can put him on Prozac. And he was 9. And I was just in shock that, hang on, we have a kid who was typical a month ago. He now can't go to school. Can't brush his teeth, doesn't want to do the things he used to do, can't put on his baseball uniform, wants to quit baseball, has already quit basketball. We can't get him in the car to go to school. He's having sleep issues, and you want to cover this up with a very strong medication that has side effects.
Yeah.
So we didn't do that. We tried the magnesium. That didn't do anything either.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the immediate.
The start of it. So when was kind of the light bulb moment? So you probably had a few, misdiagnosis with your psychiatrist and this and that. And then when did Pandas think? When did you say? I think I remember in the book you said this. You said that you went out and you were doing some research about it, and you just went on one of the sites and put your symptoms out and said, could this be Pans and Pandas? And you were thinking, well, I don't think it is, but I just want to see what they say.
Yeah. And I went on the Facebook page, like the biggest one that we all know. And I thought, okay, I'm sure other parents are going to be like, nope, this really doesn't sound like it. You can go on your way and leave this group, and and I'm sure everything will get better really fast. But I put in, and everybody was like, yep, that sounds like it. We actually, there was a time when before we really knew what it was, we thought he probably had a brain tumor. That was one of the thoughts. And I think that's what a lot of people, you can't describe it. So we actually got him an MRI, and that was incredibly difficult because, again, you have a kid who can barely function, and we had to get him an MRI, and came back and his brain looked fine. But those are the thoughts that go through your mind when you see that your child is not who they have always been.
Yeah. So, and this might be too much sharing, but did it ever get so bad where you had to call him reinforcements or take him to a psychiatric hospital or call MCOT, the mobile crisis team to come out?
And a lot of the families that I talked to had that experience where they have had to do that. It got so close, seconds away from having to do that. There were times that we would literally just be on my husband and I would just be collapsing with just, what do we do? Is he safe here? Are we safe here? How can we even survive this every day?
Yeah. And you had another child too.
Yeah.
So then that places you in the horrible situation, as I'm reading all those stories on that site too, of parents that have multiple kids, and you love your child and you're trying to help them, and you're just broken trying to help them, yet you also have this other baby or other babies that are not safe with this child. And so it is heart-wrenching, and there is really no place to go. The help is just not there enough.
And you hear about so many families who say, don't take your child to the ER.
Yeah.
That's a horrible thing that is almost common knowledge or common advice in this Pans and Pandas world is you won't get help there. In what other realm do we tell a parent, do not take your child to the ER? But that is, and I know you know that too, it's because oftentimes you're going there to help your child calm down or be in a safe space. And often at times it makes them more upset or agitated when, first of all, they're not going to, unfortunately, probably be seen by people who understand it.
Right. Well, I think that's kind of where it starts, is they're putting him in there, and they don't, first of all, are treating something that they don't even believe in, and they don't know how to treat it because it's just this mystery group of illnesses into one thing. And so they're treating them like it is a psychiatric disorder. And so they're putting them in rooms with people or facilities where there are other people with serious psychiatric issues. And so it's a very, very, very bad place to have to go. And we unfortunately did have to do that a couple of times, only because it came between saving his life, or we're going to have to do this because literally we're going to lose him.
100%. And I remember I have a good friend whose son was getting violent with Pans, and she was afraid for her others, for the other kids' safety, and she called the police and was hoping that when they would come, they would possibly have some knowledge of Pans and Pandas, and that they could just kind of help keep everybody safe. But what happened was, when the police officer got word that the child was violent against his dad, he said that he would have to go to juvie for the night, or for, I guess, a few hours. My friend, the mom, was, as you can imagine, absolutely distraught, trying to explain that this isn't a normal child getting violent. This is a medical condition that causes brain inflammation, that causes extreme psychotic behavior, but that you have to calm that child down, not take them somewhere where they're going to get jail is not the right place.
Right.
And she begged and begged and begged, and he just kept saying, it's better to we'll just take him for a couple of hours. You can pick him up. And no matter what she said, he just wouldn't listen. And they took him to juvie. And then, yeah,
I just get that. Yeah. I mean, it would be like coming and taking a sick child with cancer and going and throwing him into a place like a reform school or something where they, and that's what's really hard that we experience with our son is he knows that this is not right. And he knows that this is, why do I do this? Why am I doing this? And I did pick that up in the book, a couple of the stories where of the adults that now can reflect back and why am I doing this? And then you have so much shame and regret. And I can remember Jake flying off and doing something, and then he would be remorseful and he would be like, why? And it's so heartbreaking as the mom and the parents, both parents, to live with this. It's something that I'm so happy that we're able to sit and talk about it. It's not something I like talking about because it brings up a lot of things, as you well know, which kind of brings me into let's talk about the healing side of it a little bit. So once you kind of figured out what were your trigger, what was it? What caused it? Did you ever trace it back to anything?
I think he is classic Pandas. It really was strep, which I think is somewhat easier, as you know, than Pans, because with Pans, there's so many things it could be. It could be a virus, bacteria, multiple things, Lyme disease, tick-borne illnesses, all of these things that are so hard to tease out and figure out. We always came back to, we knew around this time he had Pandas, he had strep, and even though he was treated for the strep, and he didn't actually have strep anymore, but of course he had Pandas symptoms. So we did low-dose immunotherapy for a couple of years, and it did help quite a bit. I would say the light bulb moment was when I was able to convince the neurologist, okay, instead of Prozac, can we do long-term antibiotics? Can we just see what more antibiotics would do for like a few weeks or a couple months? And surprisingly, he said, sure. I mean, I remember being on the ground in my room, just like on the phone with him saying, like, I don't think we can get through another day. Like, please, will you let us try long-term antibiotics? And he said, sure. So our son went from having a rage every other day to going about 40 days without a rage, which was incredible. He still had every other symptom, but that was the moment, obviously, over that month was like, okay, he actually has this. Like, this is nothing behavioral, nothing with our parenting has changed, nothing discipline. Like he is
Right.
responding to this. And then what was the most wild thing was that my daughter, who was 6 at the time, my daughter and I both got strep, and all of his symptoms came back even though he was on antibiotics. And I don't even get how that works.
I know.
It's just the weirdest thing. What? So like he started raging again, even though he was still on antibiotics.
Yes. That is so crazy. I think that we still trigger off if he gets around somebody who has strep. Like I can see a change in Jake's personality, and I'll like if he'll have a behavior, like if he's in a weird mood, I'll think, he must have gotten around somebody who had strep or something. That immediately comes to my mind. It's so wild.
So bizarre.
It's so crazy. So you did the low dose immunotherapy.
Yeah.
Oh no, you did antibiotics.
Then we did low dose immunotherapy for a couple of years, but throughout this whole time, certain things would get better. I mean, I would definitely say low dose immunotherapy is fascinating, awesome. I love, I think it's a great method of healing. But he was still not able to go to school. Last year was his first year completing a full year of school since he got Pandas when he was 9.
Wow.
He just turned 16, so that means basically year 15. When he was 15 was his first year. Wow. So
That's so incredible.
It is. So after, we just felt like we weren't seeing the healing that we wanted to from low dose immunotherapy. And I feel like all I did was read Facebook posts about what was actually helping kids. And over and over and over again, the families I saw who were having the most success seemed to be the ones doing homeopathy. And so we went that route, and I can truly say that is what healed him.
Wow. That honestly, that's it, almost verbatim. That's exactly kind of what we did too. We didn't do the low dose immunotherapy. I wish we did, but we did do one round of IVIG. But we did once we got, I'd say we got like what I would consider maybe about 70 or 80% better, meaning that we could get through days, we could do this, but there was always this underlying, like anything could set him off still there. There was still OCD was still pretty high, and he was still going back and forth between he'd have like a few good days and then a bad day. And so it was just didn't seem consistent enough. And so we also did the homeopathy. And I want to say that we had the most, really the most healing through homeopathy.
It's such an incredible treatment. And I think it can be challenging to understand because
especially for people, I don't know, from like me, like I just don't believe stuff. And so it's like, it's like, what are you saying? This is, you're going to eat this and this. And I'm like, I just don't buy it. And if it's so, why isn't everybody doing it?
Yeah. And I think one of the challenges I run into with people, not wanting to try homeopathy, is the idea that you have this disorder that is it's like this beast, and you want to choose something just as beastly to kill it and to and that's not how homeopathy works.
No,
homeopathy
we know.
Is like introducing this little lamb and just saying,
I know it is. And you're so desperate that you really need a miracle. You need a big bomb to come in and really take this big flame off of them. And homeopathy is, but for us, and everybody is so different because every story you read is completely different. I do remember for us, we did pretty quickly. I did see some improvement, which actually was good because it gave me buy-in. Because I thought, oh, this isn't just another thing to try, and I'm not buying that these little pellets do anything. And the fact that I actually could see improvement really kept me in it. Otherwise, I would have been like, if I had to wait 6, 8, 9 months or whatever for that, I would never have stayed in that long.
Do you remember like a little moment where it was like he was able to do something he couldn't normally do, or just that he seemed happier, or?
Yeah, it was. I know that you know this. There's something dark that comes over their eyes where they look vacant, and they get, their eyes do tend to get very dilated, and they look not like that sweet, lovable baby that you gave birth to. And I think I saw that shift in that look in his eyes, and that was the beginning of it. And I saw an exhale in him too, where he didn't seem so uptight, and every little thing wasn't setting him off. Like we could say, oh, well, we're not going to watch this right now. And it wasn't like he would rip up this room, you know, where in Pandas, when you're going through a flare with them, if you say no to pretty much anything, I mean, you don't know what kind of response you're going to get. You may set them off into a rage, and it's not pretty, and it's not nice for them. So you want to try to avoid it if you can.
Yes. And I don't know if you experienced this, but it's almost like, I guess they call it sundowners.
Yes, we did have sundowners. We did have it. And that's why I dreaded, I don't know if you
dreaded the night.
You dread the nights. You dread the nights. And then you can't wait until they go to bed too, so that hopefully you can have a couple of hours of peace maybe, but they're not sleeping well. So, so we definitely had the sundowners too.
Yeah.
And so tell what that is in case somebody doesn't happen to know what sundowners is.
I mean, I think it's when people have dementia or Alzheimer's, or maybe certain other things where nighttime is just a very difficult, like it just neurologically, it starts affecting maybe mood. But I just remember our son would always, even during his darkest times, he still always wanted to be with friends, which was very surprising. And I just remember our wonderful neighbors in our neighborhood. He would be playing outside with them, and you'd sort of be like, okay, I can have a moment. I'm glad he's playing outside. I'm glad he's getting fresh air. But then this dread would come over you, knowing that it's 5 o'clock and he's going to come in, and everything is going to change. And it's part of what's so bizarre, because people would only see that kid outside who's running around playing basketball. They would never imagine that 30 minutes later that kid would come in, and it's like you said, you can see it in their eyes. It's like a heaviness, a darkness.
Yeah, and like an anger, and it's almost like sort of like dynamite a little bit, like, you know, like they're going to explode at any time, and they don't really know why, and it's very hard. And yeah, that is something that we definitely experienced as well. So when would you say you were healed? Like, okay, so like, when would you say like we're healed? When was that? And I know it's ongoing.
Yeah,
it's ongoing.
It was such a slow process, but like you said, with homeopathy, most of the time I felt like we were seeing progress. Just little things, like you said, little things he was able to do, just a clearing of his mind, being able to, like his sense of humor would come back. He wouldn't constantly have to have doors closed, or he would be, he would talk about wanting to go back to school. And sometimes when he was able to go to school, that was the most wild thing, is that when he was able to, he would just walk out the door and go to school. That was crazy, because nothing I could possibly say when he was not doing well. There was not one morning out of the probably, I don't know, 1,000 mornings that I tried. There was nothing that my husband and I could say to get him to go to school if he was not healthy. Like if he just couldn't.
It's
But
kind of
then-
like that agoraphobia, or is that what it's called? Agoraphobia? Where
Like
people are
fear
afraid to
of-
leave their house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that and arachnophobia mixed up.
Yeah. I mean,
But agoraphobia, and I think it's kind of like that, where they are afraid to leave the house. It doesn't feel safe.
he could not. Yes, that's what he would say. I just don't feel safe there. And we knew he had the best teachers. His teachers were so incredible in fourth grade that, and I like thank them in the book because they would come to the car door to try to help him get out. One of them roller skated to our house
Oh my
to pick up
goodness.
Chase to try to get him. And I just remember him being like, he was so moved and so emotional and so appreciative, but he just was like, I'm sorry, I can't. And she's like, that's okay. And she just, gave him a hug and was like, that's okay. Like, it's just good to see you. And the fact that someone would do that is, I still text with them today, and I still send them pictures of him thriving, and I thank them for planting those seeds, because they were incredibly safe, wonderful people, and it had nothing to do. He didn't feel safe. He had brain inflammation.
Right.
And so there was nothing they could do, or us. And so I guess getting back to, I think we need to stop telling parents to drag their child who has brain inflammation to school, because
Yes.
it's really horrible and it's really detrimental. And
Exactly.
It doesn't help.
Exactly.
Sometimes you
And
just need a break from
and
it.
honestly, even we did do homebound for a bit, and even that was a disaster for us, although we do have autism on top of that too. So we have kind of the double whammy, and so that probably is why homebound just didn't work for us either at all. But yeah, definitely. And I think that's where the awareness comes in. If and I was actually lucky in the sense too that I don't know if you know Nathan Pullen, and he's on that committee, the Pandas Pants committee, that is that down at the Capitol thing on the Pandas Awareness Day thing. He's on that committee, and he was actually worked for AISD. He was like an autism a behavior specialist, and he would come to my ARD meetings, and he got it, and he believed me. And not a whole lot of people there did. I think they thought I was a neurotic, crazy, because although I try to really maintain my composure and understanding that we're all on the same page, and I'm not a mean person. I'm just trying to help my kid here. That's all. That's it. But there was a couple of times that I did kind of just like, you just get to a point where you're the lady on terms of endearment. Give the kid a shot. Help my kid. I just want help.
Yeah. I remember during some ARD meetings, a teacher, when our son first was having symptoms, that teacher said, I don't know, I see a typical kid. When he's here, he looks typical. It does look like he has possibly some ADHD, or I don't know if she specifically said that, but she was describing what looks like ADHD. But it was sort of like, he's totally fine. He just needs to be here,
Yeah.
And it's like, if it was only that easy. And then I remember months later, I asked the principal who was in those ARD meetings, I asked her, could I come and just present what Pans and Pandas is to teachers? And she was like, your son is really the first kid we've experienced this with. And I was thinking, no, that's not true. Like, that's not even close to true.
But is
you
it?
just don't know. Yeah. Like, let me just tell you that there have been how many kids who have gone through this. I think she had been a principal since the 90s or early 2000s. And there have probably been many, but they were told they have just quote unquote ADHD and maybe some OCD and maybe some anxiety, but so that was just incredibly frustrating because, man, she wasn't even interested in me trying to educate or just share.
And I mean, gosh, if anybody offered to do something like that, no matter what it is, as long as it's on the up and up, I'm surprised that they wouldn't embrace that. But I'm actually not surprised, but they probably are looking at some sort of legality of the whole thing. But I'm so happy that you are post all of this and that. So what's it like now? What's life like now? Is it just normal life?
Yes, and it is the most amazing when I tell you that multiple times a day, I thank God.
Oh,
I would not have. I know that not every Pans or Pandas parent has a religious faith, but it was truly one of the only things that helped me survive. And I just thank God every day for just the healing, the lessons. I am not the same person. I think Pans and Pandas takes all of your existing weaknesses and expands them and pushes you to levels you've never imagined you would ever get to as a person, as a parent. And but I feel like in those moments when I would just pray to God for his help, always there would be some glimmer of hope.
Yes.
Within minutes or things that were unexplainable, where things were as horrible as they could possibly get. And then I would just pray and pray, and either the four of us, our family would come together after something just terrible had just happened in our household, and we would get together and hug each other. Our son was able to just tell us he loved us, or he just felt so bad for what had just happened, or we were just able to come together, and there was just always a glimmer of hope. Right. So I just encourage people to, one of the hardest things as a parent, I think, going through this is it's actually kind of easy to do, to research, to constantly be trying to figure things out and be in control and write notes and make that next appointment. That's like our gut, but it's really hard to rest. It's really hard to not do because we feel like we're running out of time. We have to heal our child.
right.
But I think God wants us to rest and trust in him. And so my advice would be to just trust that somehow you will get through it. And on the other side it is amazing. Like, I just marvel at who he is as a person. I feel like homeopathy has truly just revealed what was always there, who he really is. He's so funny. He's so kind. He's so loving. He's grateful. He's mature. I just enjoy him, and I'm just so proud of him. And I feel like just every day I'm thankful.
So what does he do for fun? Like, is he play sports? What's his thing?
He plays basketball and he plays baseball, and he's going to be doing both of those for his high school.
Awesome.
And just to see him walk out the door every day like it's nothing. He wants to be on time. That's awesome.
Oh, wow. He sounds amazing. And I mean, I don't know him, but I am doggone proud of him. Anybody who's come through that and is that kind of a little a little gentleman. I'm just so happy. And I love this success story so much. And thank goodness he had a mom that just wouldn't give up and wouldn't accept just, what doctors or other people were telling you, or you know your child. And I think that's kind of the takeaway from this is like, you know your child and you know if this is not normal. This is not normal behavior for your child. And if you happen to go to one doctor, ER, whatever, looking for help, and they're not telling you what you need to hear, then just keep moving. Keep moving.
That's right.
Keep fighting.
Right. It's not worth the time to waste. Just talk to a doctor who you don't need to convince, who listens to you and says, yeah, it sounds about right. Because again, it's a clinical diagnosis.
Right.
There's not one single test that'll tell you. And so,
did you guys do anything like the Cunningham panel or any of those testing or things? You probably didn't really have to, because with us, we were on the fence because we had the autism mix in with it. We were kind of like, what's autism? What? But I knew this is not autism. This is not our autism. Yeah. So,
and I'm curious, what advice would you give to parents who have a child where they do have autism? How do you distinguish it? Because there is a lot of overlap.
Yes, there is a lot. And it looks, and to tell you the truth, I'm not sure that a lot of it isn't all the same stuff. I don't know. It's just too similar, but I think a lot of it has to do with the degree of these things, the degree of these symptoms and things. Definitely, because prior to that, we had autism and it looked a certain way. And then after the change came, it was like we had a completely different autistic kid. It wasn't even our kid. And so I think trusting your own gut and keep looking for answers. And gosh, thank goodness for the boards. I mean, the message boards and the Pandas and Pans page is that parents page group is a lifesaver.
It truly is. And I think I wrote in the book too that it's like one of the only spaces I can think of where someone who is going through their own hell will take time to wish to give you a hug from across the miles.
Yeah.
We'll take time to say, I'm praying for you. We'll take time to say, well, this helped me last night. Maybe it can help you.
Right.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I think too that's a good message, is you are not alone. And I think you put that in your book. It was I think I read it kind of towards the end. You're not alone in this. And first of all, I want to say thank you so much for coming and talking over this with me. I don't know if you're going to go. I am thinking about going down to the Capitol. I hate going down to the Capitol for stuff, but
I want to go again because I've only gone once, and you and I were actually the ones to we walked around together to the different offices.
To go to the different those aren't constituents. Those are the different politicians. Anyway, representatives. And I've done advocacy work before that, but the more we do it, the more the words get out. The more we say it, the more, and it's working because I'm talking to people now, and people know about Pandas and Pans.
Yes.
People are talking about it.
It is still wild to me that there are only 15 states that have some sort of, or require some sort of insurance coverage for Pans and Pandas.
Yeah.
15. And Texas is not one of them.
Yeah.
And so going back to the very beginning of when we were talking about caregiver burden, it's so expensive. As you know, IVIG could be $10,000 a pop.
Yeah, or more. We paid $16,000. Well, we had a big kid too by then. He was almost, he was 16 or 17, and it's by weight. And of course, he's 6 foot tall, and so it was $16,000. Luckily, we did an appeal, and they did reimburse us for that, and we were able to get paid for that.
Amazing.
But there are people so desperate that they are mortgaging their homes and selling their valuables and downsizing, moving in with family members because they cannot afford treatments, and that just got to stop.
Because some families need IVIG once a month,
right?
Which is, so multiply that amount, multiple times,
right?
I'm sure you've read, I feel like I've read on the Facebook page of, like you said, people truly living out of their cars, like you said, mortgaging their house, trying to, in really dire straits because they're trying to, or getting out of a moldy house because they know that their house has,
or have to literally walk away from everything they own, their home, their belongings, down to their freaking clothes off their back, because everything has mold spores, and their child is reacting to it, and it's making them a crazy lunatic, and the hospitals are telling them they have schizophrenia. It's not schizophrenia or bipolar or whatever they want to label some of the more severe cases. And it makes you wonder how many kids are sitting in these places that actually have a medical problem.
I think a lot. I think there is evidence showing that people with schizophrenia have some sort of immune dysfunction.
Yes.
Have an autoimmune disease, and a lot of times you treat them for an autoimmune disease.
Right.
And they get better.
Right. Yeah.
So my hope is that that's where things, that in 20 years that we really expand our knowledge of that there's a lot of things that probably can point to immune dysfunction.
Yes, for sure.
Instead of just, you have a quote chemical imbalance causing, or whatever, these really nebulous, confusing things that really don't point to
just because it looks like OCD doesn't mean it's OCD. Mm-hmm. Just because it looks like Tourette's syndrome doesn't mean it's Tourette's syndrome.
Yes.
Just because it looks like one thing, autism, it doesn't mean it's autism. And a lot of people walking around with an autism diagnosis may not even have autism. Maybe they have brain inflammation, and with antibiotics or IVIG or whatever, or maybe a dietary change, I'm not sure. Their whole life would be different. So thank you so much for spreading the word with me, Melissa. I just adore you. You are just a living doll. You're not only are you a great advocate, and you're smart and brilliant, and you put out this great book, but you're beautiful, and your family's beautiful. We didn't even talk about your husband, but your husband obviously has been a big support through this too, and you guys hopefully came through. And
yes, we truly did. We truly did. And he's the best.
And hopefully come and join us. We are going to be down at the Capitol. Well, I'm going to try to be down there, but I'm going to be down there on Thursday.
With you?
Oh, yay! October 9th. It's Pandas Pans Awareness Day, and it's from 9 to 1. So try to get down there. I'd say get down there before 9, and kind of meet up. We'll put the links on our page and all the information. So if anybody wants to come down and just see what it's about, or if anybody's out there and thinks that they have a friend, a family member, their own kid, who any of this sounds familiar, rings a bell, feel free to reach out to me. We have our info on our site too. So, I'm an open book, and I if I can help anybody going through, and I know Melissa, she's that way too. So we're out here.
All proceeds from the book go to Pans and Pandas charities. So
I know I love that so much too. I love that, and so yeah, and check out this book. It's such a good book. It's such a feel good book. I feel good.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye. Over and out.